Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Oh yeah, I can see the hello in the chat. Hi, Ilya. Welcome.
Yeah. Hi, also from me.
So yeah, we'll just
Quite a
begin.
few people, eh?
Yeah. I think it's a very enthusiastic bunch in the chat right now. And see people from across the globe. All right, from Mexico, yeah, Poland, India, Georgia. Oh, it's quite a spread. Norway, Netherlands, Spain. Thank you for joining us today. Hello and welcome. So yes. I think people are joining in. I think we'll just begin maybe in the next 30 seconds. So I'll just set up my screen right now so that we are all set to begin today's session. So hello and welcome everyone to the session today, which is Master Your Literature Review Workflow. And from multi-PDF analysis to your writing. So how do you seamlessly read, write content effortlessly using Paperpal? And before we actually begin the session with Ilya, the much awaited session for today, so some hygiene things for the best experience on AirMeet, especially if this is your first time using the platform. So these are some quick tips that you can follow. So maximize your screen so that your content appears in a full screen view and that you are able to read content and understand content effectively. You have a chat window where you can ask your questions, you can be engaging, you can be active, you can respond. Keep using those emojis, show us your love, show us a thumbs up so that we know that we are on the right track. We also have a Q&A window where you have any questions that, let's say, you might want us to consider later on in the Q&A section. We will consider that as well. So in case you are experiencing any difficulties with audio, use headphones for the best session, for the best experience in this session. And needless to say, this session is being recorded, and the recording as well as the resources will be emailed to you in the day or two. With that said, let's begin. I'm Shardul Nair. I'm a product manager with Paperpal, and I have with us today Ilya Shabanov, the founder of the Effortless Academic. So Ilya is not a conventional academic in the conventional sense. He was a freelancer for over 15 years and then went on to co-found a company called as the Neuron Nation, following which he jumped into academia to do a PhD in computational ecology. So that's quite a journey Ilya has had with a lot of experiences. And he put all those experiences to use by founding the Effortless Academic that actually helps researchers such as yourself navigate the academic writing world, the scholarship world effortlessly, and understand how to use the different AI tools out there to make meaningful impressions, meaningful uses in your academic journey. So welcome, Ilya. Hello and welcome. It's really a pleasure to have you with us over here. And
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shardul, for the introduction. Oh, you're
yeah, no worries. So just before I hand it over to Ilya to begin the session, so just a couple of things as to what are the takeaways from this session for you all. In this session, Ilya will take us through how to do your reading and understanding of your literature and papers using an AI-assisted workflow with smart note-taking, how to synthesize useful and actionable insights across documents, form connection between papers, how to convert your notes into compelling drafts and arguments while retaining your own voice, your own style, and how to use AI effectively while safeguarding originality, integrity, and critical thinking. Now, that said, over to you, Ilya. The floor is yours, and I will stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shardul. Yeah, I am also very excited to meet you all. And yeah, we're gonna dive right in, a very New Zealand style topic. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. And here it is. And our topic today, maybe let's switch here. Our topic today are tree ferns. These are some iconic plants in New Zealand, and our goal today is to write a little paragraph on their ecological functions. So, of course, it's not a full literature review because it will take a really long time, but we will get kind of one sliver, one little idea that we can explore using AI and using a few papers and writing them up together. So you get a bite of every step of the process, and then you can just times 100 what I have done, and you would have essentially a literature review in in a week or so. So yeah, just for you, tree ferns are just gigantic ferns that look like this, and we want to figure out what are they and what can we do with them. So if you were to just Google tree fern ecology, you would get some sort of papers. So here is a paper by Brock 2016. And maybe if you scroll down, you'll find here another paper, Donahue 2022. So there's like a few papers. Yeah, and let's say you download them somehow. So I have done that already for you. Here are the papers. So here's the Donahue paper. Here is the Brock paper. And I downloaded another one. And the first thing I'm going to do is go here to the Paperpal overview and click on Chat PDF to get started. So let's get started and upload those PDFs to the chat. So if I just upload those guys here, then it will take me some time until it happens. But the main thing is when you work with papers, when you try to read something, we kind of always jump into this AI first workflow. But if you think about it, if you don't know which questions you're going to ask, it's going to be very difficult to use AI effectively. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying to take notes and to actually read some of the papers, at least the abstracts. So if you just click on that, we can even fold that sidebar away. You will get our nice PDF overview. This here is the AI chat. Let's start without AI for now and try to use our brains and try to learn a little bit before we use AI to kind of accelerate that learning. So I'm going to go to notes and create a new note. And that note, we're going to call something like ferns, maybe. And we're going to start reading. What are tree ferns? Yeah, and if you can see here, there's maybe like a sentence. Tree ferns are ubiquitous and often locally dominant element of southern temperate rainforests. So what we can do is we can highlight that part here and say save to ferns. This will take this note and copy it into our note that we are having here. It will also have this edit on. We might want to remove that. And now we have this piece that we took from the PDF. So the problem is it will be very easy to start highlighting everything and just extracting these highlights. However, I think that's really not good because you feel like you're doing something, but all you're doing is highlighting. In order to learn, we have to use that knowledge to somehow formulate it with our own words. And so what I do is I would highlight that and then hit Command I or Control I to make it italic so that we can see that's kind of somebody else's words. If you want, you could also put it in parentheses or quotation marks. And then I would write my own idea of what it is. So we can say, and tree ferns are widespread in southern hemisphere. And I can highlight that and maybe hit Command B for making it bold. So now you see that there's my own note. I'm learning something. So I had to really use my brain to formulate that. And then there is a part of the PDF that backs it up, not the other way around. Whenever you highlight in Zotero, you always comment on what you highlighted. I want you to do it the other way around. You comment something and then you use that reference there as something to back up your ideas. That's what creates real understanding. Of course, it's kind of hard to do it in 15 minutes, but if you were to do it for a couple of weeks, you'll see how beautiful that process develops. And then we can kind of keep looking and maybe extract a few more idea. For instance, here the tree ferns represent more than 50% of area in the forest and more than 20% of biomass, but they are largely overlooked. So people don't really study tree ferns, but that's exactly why we are writing our literature review, because we have found that gap that people don't really study tree ferns. So let's do the exact same thing. We will make this italic, maybe put it in a few parentheses, and then write in our own words what we're actually trying to say here.
Ilya,
So tree ferns
sorry for
are
the
overlooked.
interruption, but your screen has stopped sharing.
Really? I'm sorry about that. Is it, I mean, here it displays, I mean, I can just, maybe we can, entire screen, can reshare it. Do you see it now?
Yes, now I can see the AirMeet interface, Ilya. Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep, we're back.
Um, so yeah, so tree ferns are largely overlooked. Thanks for reminding me, Shardul. And we can keep going and keep reading like this, and add maybe, like a few other points. So I don't know, when I read this, I would see that they live up to 250 years. So they uh, live up to 250 years. Again, my own words, and keep it as short as possible so that you don't have to read like these long highlights. You kind of just get the bullet points that are important to you at that moment. Yeah, and then, let's assume you're done. You would switch to another PDF. So we're looking now at this Donahue PDF, and let's just keep exploring. And you'll get to the point why we're doing it like this in a second. So in that paper, which is now about Australian tree ferns and not New Zealand tree ferns, slightly different, we could try to ask, like, what are the different, what is the special thing about tree ferns that we want to study? Kind of, what is this research gap? And the research gap is maybe here, if we start just reading and see where something interesting might come up. Tree ferns perform keystone station at local scale, but it is unknown if this has an impact on biodiversity. So for instance, this is a really important part, and that's part of your skill as a researcher, is to spot these nuggets where the authors, not the AI, because AI would have trouble finding these things, where the authors have identified an open question for you. So let's try to save that open question. And notice also that this note editor leaves the references to the different papers. So when I go back, I know where exactly I read that information from. So the key question here is question for lit review is, what is the impact of tree ferns on biodiversity? That's our question, and that's essentially what this part of the paper is telling us, that we don't know what the impact is. And so we have just found the absolutely essential question that we're going to study in this, and that's going to be kind of our research gap and our unique perspective on the topic of tree ferns. And you can also explore a little bit more what you can do here in terms of formatting. So we could, for example, use the two hashtags and then hit space, and then it becomes a heading. So this is called Markdown, and that editor supports more or less Markdown. So I would expect Paperpal eventually also adding a few buttons so that you can do it by clicking. And so we can say, okay, this is questions, and this is insights on tree ferns. So immediately we have a little bit of structure in our note, because you can imagine if this goes on for a long time, then we will have quite a lot of overview that we need here. But okay, so now we have figured that out. We know what our question is. Why did we do this? Yeah, so why did I not just go and say, hey, AI, can you please just summarize everything? Because it's very easy, to go here and say, okay, well, let's just summarize everything. And we can do this because it's you'll see the difference. So let's just give it a try. I'll just speak a prompt. Summarize these papers, 10 short bullet points, maximum 10 words each. So I'm using a tool called Whisper Flow, and I can just hold a button and then it dictates just this. So now we are going to the AI and asking it to summarize these papers. So we are not reading the abstracts anymore, and I just want to see kind of what type of information I get. Because right now we have found the research question, that the key research question is biodiversity. But when we use AI, everything that these papers speak about will be in that part. So, for example, tree ferns dominate wet southern hemisphere rainforests globally. Is that relevant to you or not? You don't know yet, because if you do that first, you have no idea about the gap or about what you actually want to study. And if you look at it, there's no mention of biodiversity in these bullet points, as far as I can see, even though it kind of indirectly mentions it. So we would miss that gap if we just ask AI to summarize. And that is something that I experience frequently, is you can't outsource understanding and prioritizing to AI, but what you can outsource is searching. So that is my big rule, that you have to understand things first before using AI. Don't let AI choose what is important. So if we read the abstracts, we found this very clear, very important idea on biodiversity, but if we ask it to summarize, that idea disappears. And that's what I'm trying to tell you here. If we have 6 different ideas, the black ones are relevant, the white ones are not relevant, and I ask to summarize, I might miss one idea. Yeah, so that one of the black dots kind of got missed in the summary, and that is our biodiversity that got lost here. And but on the other hand, if we say find something on a specific topic, AI will do a much better job, and that will be exactly my second prompt. So let's try that out. What is the impact of tree ferns on biodiversity? 10 short bullet points, maximum 10 words each. So let's try that now with a very directed question that is not just a vague summary, but actually laser pointed and targeted. Note that I always use this 10 short bullet points, 10 words each, because nobody has time to read a whole paper of output, because most of it is not really relevant to you. You start with small bullet points, and then you can always ask, can you please expound on this idea, this idea, this idea? Okay, so now we have really things that specifically go to and specifically speak to the impacts of tree fern biodiversity. And Paperpal gives us these direct references where we can jump into the PDF, and it will give us the exact paragraph that it's used to extract that specific part. And I can't do it now for time reasons, but technically we should always double check what the AI gives us, not so much for errors, but for things being incomplete. So it might say X is true, but the text might say X, Y, and Z are true. So X is true is not wrong, it's just not 100% complete. So be aware of that part. That is the thing that happens the most often with AI, is that it will just not give you all the truth, but only parts of the truth. So if I save that to ferns, this should go at the bottom, and this will kind of form the basis of our literature review. And I can, of course, look and think, okay, maybe this part is not really relevant. You can just kind of dig through it and think about what is actually relevant to you. Yeah, we can even indent something if there's some sort of hierarchical understandings happening in the text. So let's filter those bullet points, and you get an idea. But that is one way of doing it. There is actually an even better way of doing it, and that's called a literature review matrix, where we don't ask the AI to just give me impact like everything on fern biodiversity and let it choose the papers, but where we force the AI to analyze every single paper according to specific questions that we have. And so you see here we have these kind of general topics that we have, and from these general topics we can construct a literature review matrix. So let's give it a try. Can you create a literature review matrix of the 3 papers that I have with the following columns? Name of the paper in the format author and year, forest community assembly, seedling mortality, regeneration niche, nutrient cycling, and biodiversity. Each cell in a 10-word sentence summarize what it says about that specific topic. If the paper does not speak to this topic, just keep the cell empty. That's my lengthy prompt here. And let's shoot it off. And yeah, of course, all of these topics that I just spoke, you would normally extract from here. So because I did it before, I knew already what type of things I'm going to say. But yeah, let's see what the Paperpal AI will do for us. Because our idea now is to mine the literature to get all the facts on tree fern biodiversity, all the different aspects of it. And we can only do that because, again, we used our mind to identify these things, and we double checked everything and we filter everything through our mind, but we use AI to quickly extract all of these ideas. And that is where the strength of AI comes in. It's not in summaries, it's in searching, in semantic searching, and kind of presenting information in a way that makes it more accessible for humans. And here's our result. So see that we have the 3 papers that I have uploaded, and we have an analysis along these 5 different topics that we had. So here's biodiversity or nutrient cycling. They all, might be a bit ecological for you. Maybe you haven't heard this, but these are just different things that ferns do. So tree fern trunks provide crucial establishment for epiphytes. They are keystone function. And so we can go ahead and start copying parts of these ideas into our outline for what we want to talk about. So for example, regeneration niche. So let's look at the regeneration niche, and we can say, okay, maybe this is an interesting part. They mediate beneath when sufficient abundance. So you could go ahead and say only if tree ferns are in sufficient abundance. And right now, because I'm just typing it, I could just write the citation just directly, not use the link, because we have that link for this paper already. So Paperpal will know which paper I'm talking about later, and you will at the end anyhow use Word and migrate all of that. So don't worry about adding an actual link here. Yeah, maybe we can even go ahead and, I don't know, copy maybe this one seems relevant, and we copy that here somewhere. So regular foreign shedders responsible for up to 14% of seedling mortality. You can, again, make all of that stuff directly in italics to signify that it has been made by AI. So maybe we can summarize this idea of how we save notes, because by using this method, you can mine all these PDF and keep mining them for specific topics. Because now I can go ahead, for instance, and say, let's take that point and let's create another literature review matrix on that specific point. So you can imagine that we can get infinite information extracted from these PDFs. And of course, don't forget, like, it's always nice to jump in and read the actual paper and look at it. But of course, the more papers you have, the more difficult it is. And I think that the more experienced of an academic you are, the better it is to use all of these AI workflows. Because if you are not experienced and you're just copy and pasting text around, basically, you won't be able to learn anything. And you need that understanding, that subconscious understanding, in order to create research, right? So that's why I say start always without AI and migrate to AI as your own skill improves. So yeah, let's look a little bit at the few rules of note taking. We always want to break papers down by topic, not just go and summarize papers. Because you have seen that here I didn't say, oh, Brock 2018, these are the 10 things that they are saying. Here's Brock 2018 and 16, this is what they are saying. But I went by topic. Yeah, and the topics were the different parts that I want to do. There were insights on tree ferns, there were questions, there were something on biodiversity. So these are all topics. You can also have different notes, yeah, because at some point this will be just far too long. So you have different notes on different topics. And the more you do this, the more it mirrors how you think, right? Because your mind thinks in topics. It doesn't think in papers. Papers are just a way of transporting a bunch of ideas in a very compact form from one person to another. But understanding happens in these networks of connected ideas. So topical notes can also help you write, because you are later, it's easier for you to extract everything you know on a certain topic and create the sentence that you need. And we have added references to every note, because in academic writing, you can't just write X is true. If you do this, everybody will ask you, like, who said this? Why is it true? You need a reference to back it up. And that is why in our notes, for every statement that we had here, we always came up with a reference at the end. And in this case, it's even better, because it's not only a reference, it's a direct sentence or citation from the paper. And if you manage to do this, all statements that you gather here are absolutely bulletproof. Like, they are irrevocable, because you know exactly where they came from. And you won't get this if you just highlight stuff and take notes somewhere else. Only once your notes and your highlights merge into this one system, only then do you have that bulletproof idea of your words and someone else's facts merging and coexisting together. Yeah, write and highlight in your own words. That's basically what I just said. And be also very selective when copy and pasting from AI or the PDF, because it's extremely easy to hit that button, save, save, save. But then at the end of the day, you have a note that is the length of a couple papers, and that completely defies the purpose. Then just read the papers instead of having like massive notes. So keep your notes really, really short. If you kept copy from AI, copy parts of it, and always mention that this is made by AI. Yeah, so don't outsource your learning to the AI. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what for me constitutes the ethical part. I want to show you maybe one more feature is if you are done reading and processing all this information, yeah, we can go back to one of these papers, so the Brock paper, and you can hit this related papers button, and then Paperpal will start searching for another paper and will look for something that is related to it. And you can use that then again to create a new literature review matrix, to ask it the same questions, and so on and so on. So here are a bunch of papers that it gives me. By the way, that one is probably the same paper that I have here already. Gaxiola, for example, like very, very famous paper for New Zealand, tree fern trunks. Yeah, and you can just hit upload more sources. And I had another paper here for you about shade tolerance and tree ferns, and yeah, I just edited here. So now the chat can be entirely centered around that part. And maybe we can do one short analysis. So I'll close that PDF, come back to the chat. Just wait a little bit for the upload, because you see now all of these sources are selected, but I can also unselect them so that the conversation only focuses on that specific paper. And then I can ask it, does this paper speak about tree fern biodiversity and successional pathways? So yeah, I can just ask a question that directly relates. And if I find something that is relevant, then I can again add it to my collection here and keep growing this set of ideas that we had. Yeah. And I think with that said, we're gonna move on for the next 15 minutes or so to trying to write this up. So yeah, so it gives me some sort of output. We don't have time to really dive into what it's saying there, but you get the idea that you can upload things and you can just keep growing and feeding your notes. So if you click this button here, then it will open this note that we made in a new page. And here we will be able to use a few more tools that Paperpal has in order to write something that is much more academic. So from this thing, we can start writing kind of an academic outline or a paragraph. But first, I would like to give you this notion of how writing with AI works. And I call this idea atomic statements. So atomic statements are short statements expressing a simple idea that contain a reference, and multiple statements can be combined into a paragraph. And you see that this is exactly how jigsaw puzzles work. In order to solve them, you might even sort them by color, which in our cases, we sort things by topic. The topic is, let's say here, the insights on tree ferns. And these are my little paragraphs, my little atomic statements, along with the reference. So yeah, so all of these also would need different references. So because I know the literature already, and you would have extracted it at different points in the past when you created that list. But yeah, effectively, this is an atomic statement. And how do we combine that into coherent writing? Well, the same way you combine a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. You first mine all these statements and you sort them. Yeah, so you get these piles of different colors and different shapes. And we used Paperpal's AI to extract from a paper a bunch of short statements that are atomic statements. But there is one problem when you try to combine them into AI writing. Here's an example to just give you an idea how problematic this method can be or how powerful it can be. There is 4 statements that I have here. Most flowering plants rely on animal pollinators. Pollinator numbers are declining. Some plants self-fertilize even without pollinators, but plant pollinator networks are resilient. So when you see the recording, then you maybe have time to think about it a little bit more. And I can create that following sentence out of it. So most flowering plants depend on pollinators. That's the first sentence. Yet pollinators are declining in many regions, while some plants can self-fertilize. This is limited, so species remain vulnerable. The message of this paragraph would be that species remain vulnerable. But I can also write a different statement from the same building blocks with a contradictory message. So even though pollinators are declining, many plants persist. Combined with the ability to self-fertilize, plant reproduction remains stable. So here, species remain vulnerable. Here, reproduction remains stable. They're not 100% contradictory, but they don't really add up. This is what I call the narrative. And that's why it's the most important thing for you is to understand the subject matter. Because then if you use AI to write up and combine your atomic statements into a paragraph, you will not be able to spot the difference between the two. And you as a scientist, you must be able to understand what you're saying and the implications of it. So this atomic statement method is very powerful, but it comes with a disclaimer that you need to understand the subject matter of this. So let's try it out. And there are 2 ways to combine our atomic statements into a piece of writing. You can either go here to the right sidebar and just ask something here, or the way that I prefer to do it, you just hit the slash button and then a little thing comes up where you can write your prompt. And here's my prompt. Combine these short statements into an academic paragraph retain the references where they were used and combine them if necessary. Aim at about 150 words and start with a topic sentence. The topic of this paragraphs will be tree ferns' impacts on biodiversity. So I did this prompt and I just submitted. And the context of this prompt is now the entire message that you see here. And so everything that we build up. So let's just hit insert. And let's mark that as our first AI generated draft. Yeah, it's very important that you don't just copy and paste that text and say, hey, I'm done, or change a few punctuation marks. No, this is really a very first draft. AI won't give you a thing that reads like an academic paper yet. So you have to be really vigilant, and you have to pay attention to what you're trying to say and spot exactly that part where the same sentences give rise to a contradictory message. Yeah, so there's little that we can do at the moment in the 5 minutes in order to write that thing, but you get an idea that we went from using just a few bullet points that we collected as notes to something that already pretty much resembles an academic paragraph. By the way, all these underlined things, these are suggestions that Paperpal has in order to improve the writing somehow. So I can just accept a few of these things, and it will make the writing a little bit better and remove all these underlines, depending on the settings that you had. So you can use these suggestions in order to improve your writing, and you can also use any of the other features that we unfortunately also don't have time to dive in. But there's a whole set of features that we can use in order to make your life here writing a little bit easier. And then once you're done and you have like some sort of decent paragraph, you can migrate into Microsoft Word and keep using it there. That's essentially what we're trying to do. Yeah, so these atomic statements, again, you must understand your topics, not just rely on AI. The same statements may lead to conflicting pictures, so they help you with how to say it, but you have to know what exactly is happening there. Yeah, so if you don't understand your subject matter, it will not be possible to you. I want to show you one small thing that we can use, because if you're not experienced, you have this paragraph, maybe you edit it a little bit, but what else can you do with this? And so we can just copy the entire paragraph and just go back to our chat. Here's our chat, sorry. Sorry, it's in a new window. Yeah, so here's our chat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this whole paragraph and ask the AI to critique it. Contrast this paragraph with the content of the PDFs and give me 10 ideas and 10-word bullet points how I can improve it. So there you go. This is my paragraph. And don't forget to select all the sources here and just run this prompt. So now we're going kind of in a loop. We used the AI to extract things. We wrote them in a note. We processed the note manually. Then we used the note to create a writing. And with AI, then we process the writing manually. So see, it's kind of always a ping pong between the human and the AI. And we went to the chat, and now we can use AI to double check what we have written and see if there can be any improvements added to this particular paragraph. Yeah, so there you go. It double checks certain specific things. And yeah, you can kind of jump in and really try to understand what it is, and gives you 10 ideas. And these 10 ideas, they are, again, linked to papers. So if we want, we can, for instance, go ahead and copy that thing, historical disturbance events. See, that's the new paper that we edit. So you can just say, okay, well, we add this to the note. This 2011. And if I switch to my Paperpal outline, then that note is already there. And I could, for example, go ahead and rerun my prompt for generating this outline, or I could just select it, say, okay, well, AI, and then please add the fact that tree abundances are strongly influenced by historical disturbance events by adding half a sentence. So there you go. And then the AI will integrate that new idea that we had into our paragraph and help us rewrite it and decide for us which part of it basically where it fits in best. So yeah, and then that way you can go into this ping pong between AI, reading, extracting information, matching your paragraph, and improving things. And of course, imagine that times 100, then you are not writing a single paragraph, you're writing an entire paper, but you have to go basically paragraph by paragraph to have this level of detail and intimacy with the AI. Yeah, and that brings us essentially to the summary of this whole workflow, because we're almost over with the time. So what we started with is we took the 10 sources. Fewer sources are better because it allows us to more intimately interact with them. And also keep in mind that if you don't know what you're looking for, it's very easy to find 10, 20, 100 papers, but you don't know what's relevant. So you will just overwhelm yourself. You make the AI performance worse because AI is kind of selective in which ideas it extracts. And if you give it too much choice, you will get an output that is just overly selective and you will lose facts. So always start with fewer and then add more as necessary. Right now there's a 10 sources limit, but you can have multiple of those chats. So there's effectively no limit. Then the second part was don't jump straight into AI. Go to the abstract, read the abstracts. If you think about it, the authors spend probably the most time per word on writing the abstract compared to anything else in the paper. And if you just use AI to summarize, you just presume AI is somehow better than these 4 people that wrote that abstract over hours and hours of their time. And of course, their AI is not better than the 4 scientists. AI is trained on the stuff that those scientists produced. So AI is the student of these 4 people, and the abstract is the best part of the paper. So just reading the abstract, if nothing else, is absolutely essential to creating a summary. Extract core ideas and questions, because that is really the bare bones of your literature review, is this idea of where things stand, what are the open questions, what is the research gap. AI will not be as good at discovering these things as the humans are, right? So of course AI is good at summarizing things, which humans take a long time for, but like finding that little nugget and understanding its value, that's still something that we as humans are quite good at. The next step was to create a note, and that note extracts ideas and holds ideas from the different papers. You can highlight something, right click, extract, and then it automatically gets added to your note. That's a very handy feature that you can move between, but always be selective. Don't just highlight the whole paragraph and put it there. No, that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to really summarize also the notes and use these highlights as emphasis of our own words. Yeah, so this was this part where we wrote our own words and then use the highlight as an emphasis, not the other way around. You can use markdown format, so hashtags, bold, italics. Just Google what markdown is and you'll find a lot of paper, because it's a very widespread format for notes, and you can use that here also to structure your notes. Then we used AI to search for specific topics, because we already understood and analyzed the subject matter. We knew what we were searching for, And that's why we could use AI so efficiently, because we can build literature matrix that analyzes step by step every single paper on every single topic that we want, and we can use AI to extract the topics in the first place. So we go really top down first, what are the 10 things to consider when it comes to tree fern biodiversity, and then what do these 3 papers say on each of these 10 steps. So, right, so we start with a question, we expand into bullet points, we expand into a matrix. And that is what we are aiming for. We progressively search more and more detailed information and filter out that which is important. This also saves you time, because you can jump by pressing either of these green buttons. You can jump directly into the source and skim what is there, because that is relevant, while the other part is less relevant to you. Not going to say don't read the paper, but if you're short on time, the subject matter a little bit, and you just need fodder for your literature review, that might be a really good way of how you can accelerate your progress here. But yeah, fast is not always good. That's what I was also trying to say, that producing text and generating text with AI is absolutely trivial, but actually doing research is not, right? So that's what people always confuse. So don't use AI summarize. It doesn't know your priorities. What we want is like a matrix, bullet points. Always end your prompts with 10 ideas and 10-word bullet points, 10 words each. Now, something like this, because this makes it much easier for you to skim through the answers of the AI and not let it overwhelm you. And the lit review matrix is like an absolutely great way of digging deeper and faster into many papers at the same time. Then we repeat that until we have enough material. We add more PDFs to dig deeper. We let our notes grow, and then eventually we switch to writing. Here we have this red highlight. I think I haven't showed it yet, but if I want to highlight something, I type in 2 equation marks, then whatever I want to highlight, and end with 2 equation marks. And yeah, you get a highlight that looks red. So that's why it's so red here. Then the step number 6 was to convert our notes to atomic statements. So you can say, okay, write 10 bullet points, make sure to use all my notes, and if I mention sources, retain them along with the bullet point. This combines our atomic statements into a piece of writing. And you can use little hashtag to write directly into your note, or use the right sidebar. And that combines your notes into an academic paragraph. So here is the screenshot here. You can combine them. Now, don't use the output as is. That's very important. You're not done at this point. It's a very, very rough draft and scaffold. And if you are an experienced...
Sorry to interrupt, but I believe your screen is not being shared, in case, let's say, you're referring to screenshot or referring to something on your screen.
Okay, that's really weird. Why it shows stop sharing? Okay, I'll just reshare it again. Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. So I hope you can see it now.
Yeah. Now it's up.
Yeah. So the step number 7 was to convert all of this draft into writing. Then the last step was polishing the narrative. So out of bullet points, we have a narrative. We can polish it by asking, again, the multi-PDF chat if I missed something, by following Paperpal's suggestion, or by just using my own skills at writing. Number 9 was to double check. So you can just copy and paste the final thing into the multi-PDF chat and ask it for critique based on the papers. And then the result, again, gives me a little bit more information how to improve my paragraphs. And the final thing is iterate and polish, iterate and polish. So you understand and ask the questions. AI finds you the answers. You fit the answers into a narrative /note/atomic sentence. AI helps you translate this into a writing, but you polish the writing, you humanize it, you double check it. And that's very important to understand, that I consider that very ethical, because it does not compromise my understanding. It creates writing that is a co-creation between me and the AI. I have full control over it. but it is also because I use AI to be really, really like first drafty. I don't use it as is. I rewrite it heavily. If you were to just copy the output, that would probably not be ethical. So you must really check what your university says, what your journal demands, and how you disclose AI responsibly, and do all of these things in order to validate a workflow like this. So yeah, that is the end of it. If you want to learn more about how digital note taking works, because this is of course only the scratched at the top, then go to effortlessacademic.com, sign up for the free 21-day note taking course, and I'll teach you how to remember everything you read, how to write and synthesize, and how to use modern tools like Paperpal to facilitate that entire workflow. Yeah, so that's it from me. I will just stop sharing here. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ilya. Thank you so much. I think by the emojis and the reactions, I think this was very well received by everyone in the audience. And well, that brings us to the end of the session on the demo. Let me just share my screen once again. All right. So thank you all for attending that session. It was very insightful. Thank you, Ilya, so much. And for those in attendance, we are offering a 30% discount on all of the Prime plans. All you have to do is apply the coupon code PP30 OFF during your checkout. It will be automatically applied during checkout. And then you can avail the PaperPal Prime exclusive. So I'll keep the screen for a while so that you can copy the coupon code. It should also be there in the chat window. So, yep, go ahead, make that purchase, apply the discount code, use PaperPal, get that academic writing journey started. Follow the principles that Ilya outlined here very extensively on how to actually get started, especially with your reading material, with your first draft of your literature. With that said, I hope everybody has noted this down. It's time for Q&A, and I think everybody was very active in the chat in the Q&A section. So let me just quickly come back on stage. And there are quite a lot of questions that have come up around the feature itself. It seems that many of you are very unfamiliar with the feature. So there were questions around what is the maximum number of files that I can upload? Is it going to give me a page level information? Can I extract codes from this particular files, any specific PDF? So I'm going to take a crack at it to answer all of these general questions around the multi-PDF chat. So if you're a free user, you can upload up to 5 PDFs and you can chat with 5 PDFs. For Prime users, that limit is 10 for now, and that limit will increase continually going forward in time. So you can upload up to 10 PDFs, you can ask questions, you can extract insights. You can even, let's say, ask questions about a specific page number or a specific section. The AI and the agentic system will be intelligent enough to be able to give you that response. For example, there was one question around, can I pull specific quotes from the PDF? Yes, you can. For example, if you are looking out for a specific piece of information, you can simply ask a question like, okay, is this particular information mentioned anywhere in the uploaded PDFs? And the AI will try to retrieve the most appropriate statement that could support that quote or the particular statement made. So yeah, all of these things are possible with Chat PDF and the multi-PDF chat feature. So, Ilya, there is a couple of interesting questions around the process of writing. So, for example, there was one question, I think from a user that said, I'm writing a systematic review. How do I extract data from my papers in column? How can I make it more useful analyzing, extracting data, and synthesizing the result? So, I think the use case is primarily around systematic review. So, yeah, over to you, Ilya.
Yeah. I mean, systematic reviews are a little bit challenging because you need to have a reproducible way of how you extract the informations, right? That is what makes it a systematic literature review. And like if you were to ask AI to just extract some information from papers, and then you come back tomorrow and you do the same thing, you will get slightly different results. So that is what makes it a little bit challenging if you want a really like thorough systematic review. You can use these literature matrices that I showed you, just say by paper, and these are the topics to extract, but use it as a sort of first pass, and then actually read the papers and try to really understand if they match your criteria of being systematic. Because I feel, yeah, systematic literature reviews is always difficult with AI, because AI is by definition somewhat random. It's not systematic, right? So that's would be my guess here. But yeah.
Thank you, thank you. That definitely makes quite a lot of sense. I hope that answered the question, because we also had another question on similar lines, which mentioned that I am using Prisma format, the Prisma guidelines to conduct my systematic review. I found multiple tools, but I don't know what is the best use case. How can I include it effectively in my workflow? So I hope Ilya's response also answers that question, wherein, let's say, if the Prisma, if I understand correctly, contains around 25 different items that should be present in your manuscript, depending upon the kind of Prisma guidelines or structure. So creating a tabular structure, asking the AI to maybe extract specific content across different files, that could be a great starting point. And then you could build upon it slowly and steadily, while also verifying that the responses that you got from the AI are actually grounded within the source PDFs that you uploaded. So that's on the systematic review. There's also one interesting question, Ilya, which I believe you're best suited to answer. So, with the sources, how is it best to handle different projects which involve different sets of papers? So, if Ilya, if you were to be working on, let's say, multiple projects, for example, how would your process be with Paperpal and the multimedia chat process?
You definitely need to have multiple notes, multiple chats, and ideally it would be to link them together. So you can just copy and paste the link of the draft outline at the top and say, okay, well, here is the part on biodiversity, here's the part of forest succession, here's the part on physiology, and then you would slowly combine them. But I think in order to make this efficiently, you have to go more or less paragraph by paragraph. Yeah, and so basically think of one note being one paragraph at the end of your introduction or discussion or whatever you're working on, and just build it step by step, right? So the atomic sentence is the little atom out of which everything is built. Multiple sentences create one paragraph or sentence. Yeah, and then multiple of these sentences and paragraphs are together combined into a paper. And so did you build them step by step? Because we built every single atomic sentence manually. We used AI to combine them a little bit, polish that. Then we had this kind of bigger block, and now we can do the same with the bigger blocks and combine them into a paper. And that's step by step. I think I would really like to answer this one question here that is about the ethics
Yes.
of AI generated text. I think that's very important and timely question, because think about this. Yeah, what is plagiarism? Back in the day, it was either you stole somebody's work and give it as your own, or you didn't. So it's black or white. With AI, there's every shade of gray in between. That's what makes it so dangerous, because AI is trained on somebody's work. So if you use AI output, you use somehow something that was in somebody's work, but not verbatim. Like, it's just ideas. So at which point, do you go from citing them, whatever they said verbatim, to actually just extracting ideas, like as if you have read the paper? And that is a very, very fine line. And there's of course like ways how you can double check if your text is AI generated and so on, but they are not 100% reliable, because good AI writing should be indistinguishable from human writing and vice versa. So by definition, AI checkers will not do the perfect job that you want. But what you should always do is, in my opinion, is control the narrative as much as possible. Let AI generate text from your own notes. That's what we did. We had these bullet points that we wrote more or less, and AI created a text from this. So you remove yourself farther and farther from somebody's work by using more and more of your content when you create AI generated text. And at the end, you will still do it manually, a lot of it, because it's much faster once you're somewhat good at writing to just write it yourself than to ask AI to change every single word. That's just not conducive. And at this point, it just becomes whatever you're writing. So yeah, just be really mindful, and also read the university guidelines. They're very different for different universities.
That's a very wholesome response, and that's a very practical response, Ilya. Thank you so much for that. Uh, I think we are almost out of time, so I'll just maybe take one technical question, actually two of them related. One was, how do I actually save the notes file, maybe into a PDF or a docx file? So Paperpal has that functionality where, let's say, you can open the notes as a separate Paperpal document and then save it as a PDF or a docx. And there was one another question which says, how is Paperpal different, let's say, the feature different from, let's say, Notebook LM or Agent Factory? So it is not just looking at the feature in isolation, not just, let's say, talking to multiple PDF, but how it connects to the overall journey of, let's say, your research, where you are reading, you are verifying each and every response that you received in the chat by actually verifying it against the PDF using the codes that are generated in the response, how you are saving it to notes, connecting that notes along with the citations of the individual sources, such that everything is very, very clear where the information came from. That entire journey is something that you will not find in other tools, but which Paperpal does offer. So that entire process can happen in a single ecosystem without you ever leaving the tool or switching tools for that matter. With that question, I think we are pretty much done with the session, and we are 1 minute over time. But once again, thank you so much, Ilya, for agreeing to be a part, for sharing your experience, your expertise, and the process with the rest of the folks over here. I hope everybody was able to find quite some meaningful information, meaningful ways in which you can effectively use Paperpal and effectively use the different AI powered tools that you can use
Mm-hmm.
in your research and writing journey. With that, I will take leave. Thank you all very much for attending this session. Please feel free to write back to us. I think my colleagues will share a feedback form. So, any feedback, any critique, any further questions, follow up questions, feel free to write back to us and we will respond to you in the coming days. And yeah, keep writing, happy writing, and all the very best. Bye, everyone, and take care.
Okay, bye bye.